For a long time, our archiving effort, it was like painting the Golden Gate Bridge. We start on one side, by the time you get to the end, you got to start back over at the other side. We overnight became the world's largest digital audio production facility. I've banned the word final on any media. All of these things have turned into an Ethernet cable, and we ended up remixing Small World in stereo with the original 3-track orchestral masters. It makes all the difference in the world. That's the importance of keeping all this heritage. So this is our library vault. This is just stuff that's active right now. And as you can see, there's a lot of tape in here. This particular tape, what is this? This is Spaceship Earth. So this is the narration for Spaceship Earth. But this tape is a 1-inch digital tape, which only plays back on the 3M digital tape machines that were built in the early 80s. When we were building Epcot, we bought 3 of those machines. We got approval to buy them. And we overnight became the world's largest digital audio production facility. And we had those machines functional for many years. One of my first jobs at Imagineering was transferring these tapes because obviously as things age, archiving in our history is incredibly important to us. So we transferred these tapes over to another format, which is now obsolete. So once again, Spaceship Earth. And this is the Atari 32-track digital format. The 3M ran at 50 kilohertz sampling rate. And these are 48 kilohertz sampling rate. So these were analog transfers. And now we're in a position that we are now archiving all of these off. So we're transferring all of those off into a WAV file format, which is going to be stored on the cloud. But for a long time, our archiving effort, it was like painting the Golden Gate Bridge. We start on one side, by the time you get to the end, you got to start back over at the other side. It's important for us to keep our heritage and our history because we're always going back into attractions. I've banned the word final on any media because it never is. We're remixing Small World. We're going back into classic attractions, Haunted Mansion all the time. So everything has to be accessible. So this is a big part of what we're doing and as you can see, this has been archived. So we put stickers on them. We're slowly working through the archives. Tokyo is over there. These are Disneyland tapes back here. This is Epcot in this aisle. This is a small fraction of our archives. We store a lot of our stuff in Iron Mountain, which is the underground national storage.
Underground national storage?
Yeah, it's an abandoned salt mine. So it's the National Archives. So Iron Mountain operates this facility. Most of the studios and law firms, they all buy lockers down there to store their stuff in. So we have big boxes full of tapes down there, and we've got a sheet and say, okay, send us box 37. We'll go, if we're looking for a tape. Most everything's been transferred, but there's always that one you miss. So we have to keep our records and keep the tapes around. So this is the library. This is half of our job here, is just maintaining our archives. Our newer archives, we burn Blu-ray discs and DVDs, and these are all color-coded depending on what type of backup it is. Yellow and blue is Pro Tools. The purple type of playback system. Green is more straight WAV files. We still burn optical discs today, even though there's cloud storage and we've got a big online storage. One is the secondary backup. So this is one of 2 copies. The other set of copies of all of these discs is in fireproof safes in another part of the building. And then we've got our online storage. The advantage of a disc like this is it's a snapshot in time. It can't be changed. So often we're having to dig back into a show and we're like, what was the version of the show that was playing at such and such date? And we can go in and we can pull the actual backup in the actual media and go listen to it. And that's an important thing to be able to go back and do. This is our central machine room. It was built at a time in an analog era. Over here, we've got this big Alco cross connect. This is part of my modernization project because I'm also the chief engineer here. These are all 32-track analog connectors, big Alco connectors. This room used to be filled with tape machines. Obviously, we've in a digital world now, and all of these things have turned into an Ethernet cable. Kind of been repurposing, and I've been redesigning this room for the last couple of years to get ready for the next 10 years or 20 years of audio production. But we still have a lot of heritage. We've got 2-inch analog tape. Our new hires, the young sound engineers, I teach them how to align a 2-inch tape as one of their first jobs. We even have a mag machine. We were talking earlier about Small World, and I'll give you a little back history. For a long time, Small World was playing off of a particular playback format, and it had been 20 or 30 generations of analog transfers down, and the master tapes had been lost. So we had print masters, but they weren't great. One of my mentors, Glenn Barker, got a phone call from somebody over at the studio, and they said, "Hey, we found this box full of mag tape, and it's marked Small World. Are you guys interested in it?" And he's like, "Yeah, bring it over." And we threaded it up on this machine. I was standing in here when we did it. Turned out that box was the original 3-track orchestral masters, and they sounded amazing. I think that was about 12 or 15 years ago we found those tapes. And we went down to Marty Sklar, the president of Imagineering, and we played him an A-B of, it was a Swiss bell. We played him an A-B of it, and he just looked at it and said, "Okay, so when are you putting in the new tracks?" And we ended up remixing Small World in stereo with these pristine tracks. It makes all the difference in the world. So that's the importance of keeping all this heritage. We mostly work on digital workstations, and you'll see all of these road cases around here. So we have to design our facilities to be flexible because so much of our work does happen in the field. Each one of these production systems has an umbilical that we unplug from the plant. We'll put lids on it and we'll ship it off to the field. So the red case there is going to Paris next week. Our smaller laptop-based systems are going to the cruise line. We're launching 2 new ships this fall, the Disney Destiny and Disney Adventure. So my teams are heading out there. So we'll ship those out. And we have the small cases on the cruise ships because we can't fit these cases through the cabin doors on the ships. But these are full-on production suites. We can mix 300 channels of audio out of one system. And everything is hooked together with a KVM system. So it's basically within the studios, all we have is a monitor and a keyboard, and we just log into whatever computer we're gonna work on and then route the audio. But this really gives us the flexibility to work here or be able to plug into an attraction in the field and do our mixing in the field. So we'll head out the back here. This is our digital transfer and QC room. And this is where history really lives. We've got to keep active all the playback systems that are currently in the parks. So through all the generations. We have, this is called an LCU. This is a Disney-designed playback system that operates a lot like a synthesizer. And this was the first device that we created to be able to do onboard audio and to be able to instantaneously play different pieces of music or sound effects. A lot of our audio was transferred to EEPROMs. So this is a permanent playback system, and some of our shows are still playing back off of this 30 years later. But these are 1 megabyte chips. So we had 16 megabytes to store, and this is the mastering machine over there. So we record the audio in, and one of my jobs, early jobs, was we had to edit the audio, and you could edit this so that you could have different messages. So like in Toontown, you have one of the mailboxes and you've got 4 or 5 different messages. It plays back off of one of these systems, or it did play back off of one of these systems. But how you created those pauses is you had to go in and look at the audio in hex code. And you'd have to find the right hex code number and change it to a certain value to tell it to pause at that point. And then at the next play, it would play again. So editing audio with hex code, that's a skill set. Most of our modern shows now play back off of a big multi-track audio system that's sample accurate across multiple channels. So we'll stack up multiple of these units and be 60, 70 channels wide, however we need. And so, like I said, we need to keep this room active and all of this old stuff active, because every once in a while we'll get a phone call from Tokyo or someplace and say, "Hey, we're having a problem with this. We need to work on it." But luckily, we're aging out of most of this equipment. I think a lot of this we'll be able to throw in the archives at some point very soon. And speaking of archives, this is our Studio F. And this is where we're doing all of this archiving work. Obviously, we've got a 4-track quarter-inch tape, analog tape, and this is one of the Atari 32-track tapes. One of the big issues we've got, anybody working with old tape, is sticky shed. So as the tapes age, the binder that holds the magnetic material onto the substrate weakens. And if you were to just throw one of those old tapes up on a tape machine, the playhead would just scrape the oxide right off. And so how you get around that is this guy. It's an oven, And we will stack up tapes in here, and we bake the tapes at 125 degrees for 8 hours. And that's enough to soften that glue and re-adhere the oxide back onto the tape so that we can play it off. And usually we get 1, maybe 2 playbacks, and then the tape is trashed. So it's kind of a one-shot deal. We get it set up, we run it, make sure everything is working, and sadly, when these machines finally fail, we've cannibalized 4 machines to keep 3 running. We will not be able to play back any of those tapes anymore. So we are in a rush right now. And like I said, by December, I think we'll get through most of our Atari reels. And then we move on to our next, which this is kind of the TDS DCA, Tokyo Disney Sea era. Around 2001, we switched to backing up our audio onto a 8mm data cartridge. And once again, we've run into 2 issues here. One is we have to have the particular computer that can read these tapes and the drive. So we've got to restore that. But a lot of these were done in early versions of Pro Tools, which can't be opened in the modern version of Pro Tools. So as we restore these sessions, we've got to open them. We have an interim version of Pro Tools, which will open in version 10, and then we can resave it in a modern format and then convert all of the files over to WAV format. The most important thing is rescuing the audio, the master recordings. After that, you can rebuild everything else. But even these old sessions, and this is a wider issue for the whole audio industry, is you get plugins which don't work on modern computer systems. And so how do you archive a session and still be able to play it back 10, 15 years later? A lot of studios and stuff, you're like, oh, we're done, hands off, we're finished, throw it in the can, and you forget about it. For us, these are living active projects for decades. So we've got to be able to restore stuff and get back to it.